bring in the Hall of Famer, Jim Nantz. Jim was on the call, Steelers and the Packers. He has the Dolphins and the Buccaneers this Sunday on CBS. Morning, Jim. How are you?
Hello, friend. I like this little chat you're having about best quarterbacks under the age of 24. It's an exciting time for the game. And I mean, you can pretty much draw any one of those names and be happy. But this kid, Justin Herbert, is amazing. We saw it again last night. I had 2 of the first 3 games. And he's not only the real deal, but this team they're going to be in it to the end, I think.
All right. On the other side of that rainbow, you have Ben Roethlisberger. You and Tony got to see Ben up close, personal. What would you do if you're Mike Tomlin and the Steelers with Ben?
That's a tough one because he truly, truly doesn't have any help up front. There is absolutely no cohesion. When you go rookie at left tackle, we're not talking about a first rounder, we're talking about a 4th rounder at left tackle, a second-year player at left guard who didn't play a ton last year, and a rookie center. What do you expect? I mean, in the game that we saw, he threw a strike down the field on their first possession to Deontay Johnson that looked like the Ben of old. But, man, he's running for his life. The problem is he can't run like he used to. Remember how hard he was to bring down? You couldn't ever tackle him.
Yeah.
Well, that's different now. But I would give it some more time. I think there's way too much pressure right now and attention on got to make a change. By the way, if they had a quarterback in waiting that I thought was going to have a better outcome, that would be another story. I don't see that right now. So I'm still with Ben. And I think it's a sign of respect, too. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, big time career records and all that. And you don't want to see anybody end their career that way where people are dumping on you.
But also, Jim, you know how this works. Everybody has to have a take. Every week, it's like, I know exactly how good that team is or how bad that team is. I mean, Jameis Winston was a dark horse candidate for MVP after week 1. Aaron Rodgers didn't care about playing for the Packers. He's nonchalant. Like, you and Tony probably have to fight that urge of saying, I kind of know what this team is or this player is.
I'm not a hot take guy, Dan, and I know we live in a hot take world. And I was watching the pregame shows on Sunday. I won't name any names, but I heard someone make a declaration that you can take it to the bank that the Giants are going to be 0-10 after 10 weeks. If you look at their schedule, you can book it right now. They're 0-10. 3 hours later, they've got a victory. So it's just, hey, that was a great take. The problem is it had a very short shelf life. And sometimes you have to just kind of weed through all this and try to get to something that's a little more common sense.
How are your conversations with Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think you'd be surprised because you've talked to him enough times. The guy is brilliant and he's thoughtful. He's insightful. We talked to him on Friday and I asked him, who was harder to replace? I never got this on the air, by the way. So now I get a place to dispense this information. This is great. Who was harder to replace, Brett Favre or Alex Trebek? Okay. What do you think?
Alex Trebek.
Bingo. Correct.
Because he can do what Brett Favre did. It's really hard to replicate what Alex Trebek did. And Trebek did it for over 3 decades.
He's an interesting study, Aaron, because when his career is over, and he's nowhere close, I believe, to calling it quits. I think that longevity-wise, if there's a guy that's going to do it as long as Tom Brady is going to set the pace here, I think Aaron's the guy that could do it. Now, where will he be? That's another question. But after football, his next act, he could be a game show host. I know that he's interested in doing that, and it doesn't have to be Jeopardy. It could be something else. I think he could be in acting. We know that in his personal life, he's close to that Hollywood world. And if you watch his commercials, he's pretty darn gifted at it. If he wanted to be an analyst and sit in the booth, I think he would be exceptional. So, I mean, he's got so many options out there. It's going to be an interesting study, but I think that's 5 or 6 years down the road minimum.
Were you approached to audition for Jeopardy?
No, and I had a lot of people ask me that. I'm not talking about in the media, but I got asked that by friends. I had no interest in it. I don't want to ever cloud. This is just me, okay? That doesn't mean anybody else. If they wanted to do it and have some fun with it, that's cool. But my love is telling stories about sports. I don't aspire to be anything else. I kind of like dabbled in that world a little bit. Early in my career, I hosted the morning show on CBS as a fill-in, as a backup to Brian Gumbel, and eventually I got offered that job full time. And I faced a real crossroads of my career. Did I want to go into news, or did I want to stay with what was driving me, what was in my heart since I was a kid? And once I made that decision, I wasn't going to news. I wasn't going to morning television. I was staying in sports. I made the determination then. I don't want to ever cloud the picture again. This just is for me. By the way, I think it takes a lot of talent to be able to do that. I know there are others who audition. I know Joe did it. He did it well. But for me, I just want people to know that I love what I'm doing. That doesn't mean everybody else doesn't love what they're doing. But I don't want to be doing anything else. This is the job of my dreams, and I cherish it. And that's just the way I look at it.
There's a new book out, You Are Looking Live. That's the opening line of the new show that was on CBS in 1975. The NFL Today, and it launched the careers of Brent Musburger, Phyllis George, Irv Cross, Jimmy the Greek. And the title of the book, you wrote the foreword to this. What did that show mean to you when you were growing up?
That was my favorite show on television. Now, people would say, wait a minute, you can't count that against episodic television like Mission Impossible and All in the Family and Mary Tyler Moore. But for me, I couldn't wait until 12:30 on Sundays. People forget it was a half-hour show. Dan, you know it. It wasn't an hour show. You didn't have programming all week long. You didn't have the content. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have the feedback. We were all starved for information, those of us who loved the NFL. And that show not only provided you that information, it entertained you. So it really, truly was one of the things that tugged me to want to be in this business. Rich did a fabulous job writing this book. And as far as history in the industry, you won't believe some of the things that are in there. They extend beyond the base crew that you just talked about. I was blown away by his research and how close he was to so many of those people. For example, it gets into some of the history of people that came through CBS back in the 70s, not just in the studio. I'll take Al Michaels. Okay. I mentioned Al on the broadcast on Sunday. Al happened on Sunday to have the game of the year that everyone wanted, Tampa Bay and New England. It fell, the date, October the 3rd, on the exact 50-year to the day anniversary of Al's first ever NFL call, which was Buffalo against Minnesota on NBC. Johnny Morris was his broadcast partner. And not only was OJ in the game, Al Cowlings played in the game for Buffalo. Norm Snead was the quarterback for Minnesota. Al got $750 to do that game. Now, Rich got into the fact that that was Al's first game. Then he came over to CBS to do play-by-play for a short while. But I called Al on Friday. I had somebody tip me off on the date and everything that was going to be that day. He did not know. He said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "You can look it up, October the 3rd." And I said, "I'm going to mention on Sunday in the doubleheader game, pal." But yeah, there's just some great background. You Are Looking Live. That those words, when they would leave the lips of Brent Musburger, who I just have endless respect for Brent, it would give me chills. You know, we're so similar, Dan, in age and likes and dislikes. I know it impacted you the same way. I know you felt the same sense of excitement when the first shot would come up out of black and You Are Looking Live at RFK Stadium in Washington. And you were just totally riveted. And this book comes at a really, really good time, I believe, because you don't want to get too far past those glory days. That was, in my estimation, the greatest studio show of all time. And somebody needed to document it. And nobody could have done it better than Rich did.
And then you find out that Brent would say you're looking live to let the gamblers know these are the weather conditions at Soldier Field.
You know, when I auditioned for CBS in 1985, I auditioned on a Saturday early in the football season. And I won the host role for college football and hosted the show with Pat Hayden. A few weeks later, Teddy Shaker, who was our executive producer, had a huge impact on me getting my career started. He said, "You ought to come by and watch Brent do the show." Well, you didn't have to ask twice. So I stuck around after one of my early shows on CBS, and I sat in the back of the studio, and I watched him do the Greek's Corner, and I watched him come on that wide shot with that great anthem, the song behind the NFL. Dun, 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 dun. And, I'm like, is this real? Did I actually sit in that same chair yesterday? This is crazy. Is this really happening? The show was mesmerizing. Phyllis, of course, was pioneering and groundbreaking. We just lost her. Sadly, we also just lost her. Cross, Mike Pearl, who was the producer behind that show, died in this last year. But true legendary stuff. And I think anyone who's a sports fan is going to love this book, whether you're old enough to remember that show or not.
Do you ever gamble?
If you call fantasy football gambling, I guess.
But not on a game.
Oh, gosh, no. I don't even know. And I need to probably pay a little more attention to it because, you see where everybody's going with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. The commercials you go to, it's all talking about. We're first off, that is absolutely taboo. If you're calling games and gambling at the same time, now I'm not saying the likelihood that there are people out there doing it in our profession is very high. I would never think about doing that. It's just ethically, I don't think you can do it. But
are you factoring in point spreads though in during your broadcast? Is it mentioned?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I probably should pay closer attention to it. Take Al, for example. He's always had fun with this game isn't over yet. The lines like that. I haven't worked those in because I feel like that's kind of Al's got the rights to that. But I did Pittsburgh and Green Bay on Sunday. I couldn't tell you right now what the line was for that game. So I'm so locked into the process of preparation, talking to players and coaches. You get a pretty good feel after you meet with everyone where the game might be going. Oftentimes you're surprised, but the lines I don't pay any attention to.
Seton O'Connor, of course, one of the Danettes, does some impersonations that you might be entertained by. Seton, do you want to give Jim Nantz your Al Michaels impersonation? And not many people do an Al Michaels impersonation, but Seton did this to Al Michaels, just to let you know. All right.
And there he goes.
The Lamar Jackson game, he kept saying, and there he goes. And so Seton goes.
A five wide empty backfield, and there he goes.
And
pretty darn good.
And if we had Tony Romo on, Seton also does a Tony Romo impersonation.
I think we're going to run it, Jim. We're going to run it to the left. There you go.
Seton, I of course, we've been in each other's company before, and I didn't know you had the talent that could go this far wide. It's just becoming Caliendo-esque.
Wow. Yeah.
It's getting good. He's got a bit that he does with our booth, and he does Tony. I think he's got Tony just dead ringer. That he has me always, no matter what the scenario is, saying, Tony. And there was a time when Frank first came out with that. I admire him greatly, by the way. One of the first times he came out with that bit, and I was having everyone forward it to me, like, have you seen this? Have you seen it? Yeah, I've seen it, and I continue to see it. And I said to Tony, I said, we got to work this into the game. So we did. We had, can't tell you the game, it was late last season. And it might maybe even reappear on a national network doubleheader game coming to you soon. But whatever we go through, if there's a big play and it merits it, we do a little, if you will, spoof of Frank doing us.
Tony!
Tony! I didn't realize I did that, but it works for me.
Hey, it's great to see you. Hope you're doing well, and have fun with the Dolphins and the Buccaneers this Sunday.
Thanks, pal. Let's stay in touch.
Thank you, buddy.
Great to talk to you.
That's Jim Nantz, Hall of Famer, and he wrote the foreword to the book, You Are Looking Live.